The Justice Department is investigating anti-ICE protesters who disrupted church services on Sunday in Minnesota. According to the Department of Justice, the pastor of City's Church in St. Paul works as a local ICE official. Today, President Donald Trump said this.
He's a man murderer. One of many. One of many. All they want to do is get him out. They want to take him out of our country. And we're met with paid agitators and insurrectionists, troublemakers. They're paid.
Also on Sunday, ex-CNN host Don Lemon entered the church. He said he was there to interview churchgoers. Yesterday, Lemon said this.
I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy.
Today, President Trump said this about Don Lemon.
Don Lemon, who's a loser, lightweight. I saw him the way he walked in that church. It was terrible. I have such respect for that pastor. He was so calm. He was so nice. He was just accosted. What they did in that church was horrible.
The DOJ is now looking into Lemon's actions. And on Friday, the DOJ issued subpoenas for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey over an alleged conspiracy to impede federal immigration reports. And now, according to CNN, and they are sourcing two people familiar with the matter, and I don't like anonymous sources, but they are saying the DOJ is planning to subpoena Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison related to possible obstruction of federal officers in Minnesota. United States Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem joins me. Nice to see you.
Hi, Greta.
I looked at the calendar, and a year ago, you were still governor of South Dakota. There are 5 more days. That looks like a pretty calm job, doesn't it?
It was a little bit of a different job. That's true. Every day now, and every single thing that I'm doing seems like it's a national security issue. The Department of Homeland Security is very busy between ICE and Border Patrol, Secret Service, FEMA, all of it. We're very busy.
We focus on different stories of what's going on, and I'll ask you about Minneapolis in a second. But your job, I also did a little research to see, what you're in charge of. People oftentimes don't know what what does the Secretary of Treasury do? What does what do you do? Just tell me. Tell me what your work is like.
Well, it's the second largest agency in the federal government outside the Department of War, and the vast majority of it is law enforcement. We train all the federal law enforcement officers in the country. We have TSA, FEMA, Secret Service, everything that has to do with keeping people safe here in the homeland, we have jurisdiction over. And so we are very busy trying to make sure that we do that we anticipate not only what would be a public safety threat, but also terrorists. And when you have an administration like the Biden administration that let 20 million people into this country unvetted, it's a big job to make sure that people are safe.
Do you have ports too? Is that under your jurisdiction?
I do. Well, we have CBP, so that's everything that comes in and out of our country. Even we have cybersecurity, making sure that we have the responsibility for the continuation of government. If the worst day happened in the United States, it would be the Department of Homeland Security with FEMA that would continue to run our government and make sure that we're safe. We know what's coming in, what's leaving, what's being communicated, and who's in charge.
How about sleeping at night? Do you get called?
I don't sleep very much lately.
Do you get called, though? You get calls in the middle of the night?
I get called from President Trump quite often. In fact, we probably talked 4 or 5 times yesterday for quite some time. He's
After 10 o'clock at night?
Oh, all the time, all the time. He called me one time at 3:30 in the morning, and he said, "Kristi, what are you doing?" And I said, "Sir, I'm sleeping." And he said, "Oh, I'll call you back." And I said, "No, don't call me back. I'll talk now." But he hung up and called back an hour later. So he is a man that I admire for his tenacity and for his energy. He very much cares about getting stuff done and getting it done as soon as possible.
Well, I've been critical of the CIA in the past because, we've had problems with 9/11 and other things, saying why didn't they catch and everything. But we oftentimes don't hear about when someone has done his job well. I suppose when Homeland Security does its job well to protect us is that we don't hear about it, because that wouldn't be a good idea to tip us off.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. If nothing happens that day, that's a good day for me. That means that we kept people safe, that we went after the bad actors, that we did our security and safety measures appropriately, and that we trained all of our law enforcement officers to do their jobs and to do it with excellence. So that's one of the things that President Trump and I talked about a lot yesterday. Was he just said, "Kristi, I don't understand how these people can stand up in Minnesota and defend rapists, people who have abused our children, people who have murdered and taken lives. How are they fighting for them. You have to talk more about the bad people that you're getting off the streets every day.
I once talked years ago to Secretary of HHS, Tommy Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on the show talking about anthrax. I said, what keeps you up at night? And he said the food supply. Oh, wow. And he told me this whole story about the food supply. So then I was up for a few nights worrying about the food supply. What keeps you up?
I would say just being in front of these bad actors, knowing there's so many in this country, ones that I know they are here and I haven't found them yet. And the fact that we need to tell our story. I'm constantly trying to figure out how I can communicate better. How can I talk to the American public so that they truly understand the threats that we have right here at home, and that all we're trying to do is to protect the people that get up every day and go to work and want to raise their kids safely. That's what our officers do every day, and we're working hard to do it and then talk about it so they truly understand what our mission is.
How do you select who you are going out to pick up? I take it they're people who've been arrested on something and have been released, and even though they're not legally in this country, but have not been detained or turned over to ICE. Are those the targeted people?
Well, we have a national targeting center that identifies those who've committed crimes. So they've done something in this country or in their home country that has been criminal charges against them, or they've been convicted. Many times these individuals are in jails or prisons in some of our states already that we just want those local law enforcement officers to turn over to us. For example, one of the things we've asked Governor Walz for and Mayor Fry is to give us just the criminals you have in jail. They've released 490 murderers and rapists and drug traffickers onto their streets rather than just give them to us. And that's what I don't understand.
Well, some of them, though, have multiple names.
Yes.
It was a big problem. And if you come in illegally, you don't necessarily have a Social Security card, you don't have a passport, there's no database back in your home country because it's a country we're not friendly with.
Yeah, or they've lied on their paperwork to come in, and then they've overstayed and not shown up for their immigration court hearings. They've been notified, and then they've run into DUIs, other incidences. So what we're doing is targeting those who have committed criminal acts. But if we show up and we're going after a TDA member in an apartment, and they're in an apartment with 12 other people, we're going to ask those other people who they are, what their identity is, just like we would any other law enforcement operation. I think that's what people don't know, is that we're doing the same thing that law enforcement has done for years under this administration, the Biden administration, all of them. We haven't changed what we do in these types of situations. We ask everyone there who they are and why they're affiliated and surrounded by these criminals.
The church, I'm going to go to the church. That's a particularly, troubling issue because you've got the pastor. I purposely didn't name him, but he at least had been reported he's associated with ICE. And
thank you for not naming him, because people don't realize that when you keep naming someone over and over again, you increase the threats against them. And that pastor really did a remarkable thing there, trying to protect his parishioners.
And even the parishioners, I imagine, feel intimidated and.
They did, and there's going to be arrests in the next several hours, Greta. There will be arrests tied to that, and people will be brought to justice for how they violated the law in that situation.
Well, Don Lemon is a journalist, and so I thought he was going, and so when I first saw it, I assumed he was going in as a journalist covering it. I mean, I go into bad places and ask questions all the time, but when his comment about the white supremacy all of a sudden made me think, well, maybe he wasn't there as a journalist.
Yeah, well, Greta, not only that comment, but the fact that ahead of time, before this even happened, he said that he'd conducted some surveillance before they went into this church. He identified individuals that were going in with him that were activists in the work that they'd done in the past. The fact that this entire situation was then posted on the Black Lives Matter website, all of that is something that they're going to be responsible for.
Well, Don Lemon did me a huge favor years ago when he was at CNN. I was at Fox, and so I guess I'll just wait to see how this one plays out. Anyway, United States Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Greta.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.